Okay, I would like to call the July 19th, 2023 rescheduled Plan Commission meeting to order at 7 p.m. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have roll call, please.
Jan Platau. Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
Sorry. John Stanton.
Yes.
Ken Carroll.
Here.
Cheryl Slabazeski. And Angelo DeSerio.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Yes. Okay, first of all, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting held on June 21st, 2023.
So moved.
Sorry.
Motion by Commissioner Carroll,
Second.
second by Commissioner Peterson. Roll call, please.
Ken Carroll.
Yes.
Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
John Stanton.
Abstain.
Angelo DeSerio.
Yes.
And Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming tonight. We have two cases for discussion. The first case is SU-23-4-6-1, a request from A&D Storage for the approval of a B3 special use for a self-storage facility located at the southwest corner of Renwick Road and Boreal Drive. Samantha, is all the paperwork in order?
It is.
With that said, I would like to have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. I'll
Motion
second
by
it.
Commissioner Serio, second by Commissioner Peterson. Roll call, please.
Angelo DeSerio.
Yes.
Jeff Peterson.
Yes.
John Stanton.
We're gonna have to give,
Yes.
Ken Carroll.
Yes.
And Bill Thomas.
yes. Public
Motion
hearing
carries.
is opened at 7:03. The subject of our hearing is to discuss case SU 23-4-6-1, and I'd like to ask our interim city planner, Maura Ragoni, to review the specifics.
Thank you, Chairman. Before you this evening is a special use request for self-storage for the property located at the southwest corner of Renwick and Boreal Drive. The applicants before you are A&D Storage. As noted that the property is approximately 3.939 acres. It is currently vacant. It is has ComEd right-of-way on the west, as well as an detention pond on the south side, as well as on a detention pond as well as on the east side of the property. North is unincorporated areas as well. North is unincorporated. There's a total of 8 buildings being proposed. They all run north and south with no overhead doors facing Renwick or Boreal Drive. There's a 24-foot aisle that circulates all of the buildings, as well as then the drives are proposed to be of concrete. There is also a secured entrance that is one off of Boreal Drive. There is no other access provided to sites. In your packet, the applicant has included information regarding the traffic that would be associated with it. Based on the information provided is that they estimate about 5 to 9 cars expected daily when the facility is reaching until it's at capacity, and then 2 to 5 until once it's reached capacity. As noted that it does meet the setbacks and the bulk requirements. In certain areas, it's actually exceeding it in terms of green space and so forth along the right-of-ways and also along the east side. The applicant is proposing 3 parking stalls at the entrance, and that is just for maybe additional, they can explain a little bit more of needs, but mostly these types of facilities that the parking does occur in front of the unit as those who are traveling in. As part of the special use, that the ordinance does require and address the need for screening and enclosed by fencing and landscaping for self-storage units. They're proposing a 6-foot faux wrought iron fence along the west and the north and the east property lines, as well as then on the south side, an 8-foot vinyl fence. There's landscaping that is proposed on the north, east, and south side of the property. A little bit of note that the ordinance does require a 4-foot fence when in the front and corner side yards, but due to the nature of the property that is proposed with the special use, for security reasons, they've increased that height from the 4 to the 6 feet to address the security, which they can address more on that. As it relates to the landscaping, it is currently reviewed. We have asked that you condition it upon final landscaping, as it does not currently meet the numbers requirement for plant material based on our ordinance. With that, we also would consider some additional landscaping on the west property line, as that is open and it is visible from the ComEd. So we might want to, as we work through, we'll add possibly some more landscaping on that side to break up that expanse, as well on this north side as well. Applicant is proposing 8-foot evergreens. As noted, 6 are required in ordinance. The hybrid in terms of what is adjacent for screening to the residents is that of landscaping and or fence. They are proposing both. There is a 20-foot buffer between the property line and the edge of curb of the driveway there. In that area, they're proposing a fence as well as in landscaping. That landscaping will be on the side that is adjacent to the south, which is the detention pond for the residential portion. In terms of the buildings, as noted that there are 8 buildings that are proposed, I included at your seat today a section of the ordinance which relates to the building materials for developments of in this district, the B3 district. The way the ordinance is written is that it requires a certain percentage of masonry, but then it breaks it down based on those portions that are facing public right-of-way, and you can go ahead and modify and move the materials as that. It also does address the metal facades in the B3 district, stating that they are only allowed in the manufacturing. In terms of the breakdown, I had indicated that they are proposing a 3-foot, 6-inch stone knee wall on that of the north facades of the building adjacent to Renwick, as well as then also on the south. They are proposing along Borio as it stands with the same 3-foot, 6-inch knee wall along that of Borio. I've been in conversations with the applicants in terms of how to better address the building materials as it relates to Borio, because that is an entrance into the residence that I think that they'll be able to address a little bit more how they're trying to intently meet the intent of the ordinance as such. As part of it is that if there's any additional landscaping needs to further expand or address the building materials, that might be something that the Plan Commission consider. Some other items that we would recommend that we condition on upon final photometric to ensure that we do have those items provided and meet ordinance. The fire department has reviewed the plans and did provide the applicant with some comments. We did have them look at circulation, of which they did not have any comments on. In the plan, they are proposing security cameras as proposed for safety and monitoring. We recommend that just to ensure that the police department is on board with those security plans and they do have access. We ask that you condition it upon the police department's review of that as well. A couple of housekeeping items. We note that the stormwater detention for the site is provided that on the south, so that's why you do not see a detention pond in this area. Some others we recommend that we just contingent upon final engineering as well as then final signage to ensure that those are moved as they move through the process. As indicated, there is a narrative that is provided for you for your review, as well as then is also there's a narrative. A narrative is provided for you for your review. The Plan Commission also should consider as anything the standards of special use for that. I am here if you have additional questions. Also in your packet, at your seat, I did include some additional photos of another self-storage that is within Crest Hill, showing that the different uses of building materials. This is the storage unit that spans between Larkin as well as Knapp Drive. And I'm here if you have any additional questions.
Okay, thank you. I would now ask if representatives of AD&D and Steve, if you want to start it off, come to the podium, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Maura gave a very good description of the project and some of the conditions. Just kind of go on.
Just for the record, could you identify yourself?
Oh, yes. Steve Golden, Golden and Consultants, Golden and Associates Consulting. I help, I assist the applicant, A&D Storage, with land planning, zoning, and entitlements. So I'm here to represent A&D Storage regarding this entitlement process. Just kind of a quick background on this property. This property is Zone B3, which is a business zoning. A lot of different types of uses can go on this property, including self-storage, medical facility, restaurants, offices. So there's a lot of different types of uses. And from a retail perspective, and just looking at a vision of Weber Road, that particular lot is 2 lots to the east of Weber. And we all know how retail is in today's market, right? There's not a lot of retail that's popping up. And if retail does pop up, it will pop up on Weber, not 3 lots to the east. So a very, very difficult site to develop. As we know, office is pretty much dead in this area. Retail is hurting in this area. The only thing that makes sense and still kind of moving is fast food. However, because this use is a very limited amount of traffic, because Boreal is the only access point, having a restaurant there, you'll have many more vehicles going up and down Boreal, coming out to Renwick. This particular use, as Maura had stated, is we anticipate 5 to 9 cars initially, once the units are filled up, and you might have some move-outs, move-ins. We anticipate between 2 and 5 cars daily, compared to if it was a restaurant, you'd have 10, 15, 20 times that amount of vehicles coming in and out of that particular property. Same thing with an office building. So even though that storage facility is not something you see all that often in a business district, it's a perfect use for this particular parcel because of its limited travel back and forth from residents or from users. It's very little impact with the residents, very little impact to the neighbors and to Boreal Drive. As Maura has said, A&D Storage is willing to upgrade the landscaping to make sure they meet ordinance. They are willing to put this 8-foot fence, again, to make sure it's buffered, landscaping in front of the fence, a nice wrought iron fold-looking fence around the 3 front corners, faces Renwick and the east and west corners. And they're also, we talked about building materials. Maura had suggested, and A&D Storage is in agreement with this, is to brick the entire building, the back of the building that faces Boreal. They were willing to brick that entire building to give it a nice look as you're coming down Boreal Drive. They would keep the brick on the north, but they would delete the brick on the south, the knee wall on the south, because you won't see it, because you're behind the fencing and the landscaping. So we're just kind of replacing that brick on the south. They're willing to move that, to brick the entire Boreal Drive facing building. In addition, they're, again, willing to do landscaping. They're willing to work with the police department on the cameras to make sure it meets the police department standards. Also photometrics. So all the conditions that Maura had talked about has been discussed. Maura's done a great job of letting us know what her thoughts are, and we're in agreement with those standards. Any operational questions you have? Rudy Dixon and Forbes Adams are here, the 2 owners. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions and let you know how the project, how it will function, how it will operate.
Okay, any questions, commissioners? Jeff?
No.
Yeah, I have a question. It looks like you have a very large impervious area, okay, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't exceed the lot coverage allowed, if that makes any sense. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, we did ask the engineer that, and they did confirm that it was 85%. They will not be able to exceed it, and that's why we've conditioned upon final engineering in case the modifications have to be done, because there's a certain percentage when they did the detention pond, they based it on a certain percentage.
I see.
So that's why we want to condition them on final engineering. Due to the nature of the request, we didn't want to get too far down on that, because, just wanting to see if the use was, permitted, acceptable in this area. So yeah, so they will have to make sure. I believe on the plan, they did indicate that it was, because it is 85%, and there's a lot of green space along Borio as well on the side, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And I want just to kind of add on that too, that detention pond is sized and it is designed to accommodate impervious surfaces on all those outlots. So there'll be no effect on the detention because the detention pond was designed to handle that stormwater from those outlots.
Well, I can imagine that you're trying to maximize as much
Yes.
space for storage. If it was a restaurant, it would be more parking and possibly more green space, et cetera. So it's pretty solid, I can see.
Yes.
Then are we supposed to have 80% masonry?
The way that the ordinance is written is that it does give you some deviation on this. And this is kind of the way that it's written, and I apologize, I myself have been trying to go through the ordinance itself, that when it comes to these types of buildings, that they talk about the 80%, but then it gives you the opportunity that anyone that is facing the private or public street shall have a minimum of 10% masonry. So one building is looking to have, one facade of the building can have 80% of masonry. The others have to have 10. But at one point, you can decrease the masonry down to reduce by 100% if you're gonna take that masonry and put it somewhere else, okay? So that was the discussion points with the applicants in terms of how to address this, but also looking at the self-storage needs in this typical self-storage building design. And that's why we've, since the packet, we've come in talking to them about taking the brick that's on the south side of the building that they're proposing that really is not facing any public right-of-way and wouldn't be visible because of the fence, to take that brick essentially, move it to the side, the east side of the Borio facade and make that all brick as well as the sides.
Oh,
So then keeping that 10%, which actually exceeds the 10%, on the north side of those buildings that are adjacent to Renwick. The intent, though, is to screen it from Renwick, so the possibility of seeing those is, a little slim, because we're anticipating, with the landscaping there and the evergreens that are placed, but we want to meet the intent of that. The other part is that metal component of that, and by making sure that anything visible from the public right-of-way, meaning that main Borio Drive building, not to have that metal, that corrugated metal. We did talk about different materials. I kind of punt that to the applicants because they know self-storage and building materials, but that was kind of the discussion that has come most recently, was how to address this by understanding that it is self-storage. It's not a typical retail development per se, when you're once you're in kind of a thing, but how do we make sure that we preserve those streetscapes?
I see.
So it's all the money shot. The money shot's on Borio and Renwick, right? That's kind of the money shot, and because the other areas are screened with the fence from the pond, so that the residents, they look in, they don't see, the storage facilities, they see the fence from the pond side. But as you drive in, you see a nice brick facade, 100% off of Borio.
And if I interject, that was one of the reasons I included the photos, because looking around at some of your existing self-storage that we have out here, those that are in Plainfield do not have landscaping and do not have any type of masonry component. The one that spans between Larkin and Knapp, that had the most, and looking at that those areas that are adjacent to public right-of-way, I did include your pictures, that those were adjacent to public right-of-way in view, were those that were of masonry. The ones interior didn't, from the view that I could see, did not have.
Are there any offices or any office in this? No? So how is this being
No,
managed?
there's no offices. Rudy, you want to kind of mention how it works online and all the new technology that you guys are going to have?
how is this being managed?
Raise your right hand.
Yeah.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And your name was?
Rudy Dixon?
Thank you, Rudy.
Rudy, okay. Nice project. Yeah, so there's no offices?
No, sir.
Or how is this
So-
being managed?
So, an applicant or somebody who would like to rent a unit would rent a unit online. They get to pick their unit out. Then they receive a key code to get into the gate. Then they go to their unit, obviously they put their lock on the unit, and that's how it's managed. But every person gets a different key code. So we know who's coming in and out of the facility and when they come. One thing we had talked.
What if the key code breaks down, no one can get in there?
Well, then we have to maintenance it, obviously, right away, but we'll know that because everything's online, even the key code. We know who comes in, what time they come in, what time they come out.
And the police will have access to it?
They'll have their own key code as well, and fire.
Are some of these storage spaces, are they conditioned or it's just all cold?
All cold storage,
All
sir.
cold,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
You good? Ken, any? Usual? Nothing. All right, so just, I want to clarify the fence height. The fence height, why don't you tell me again what you said the fence height was?
Yes, so the ordinance states that a fence in the front yard and the corner side yard would have to be a maximum of 4 feet. That is usually in a decorative nature. With this ordinance requirement of landscaping as well as in fencing, as well as then the purpose of this fence is for security reasons, the applicants have requested that it have a maximum height of 6 feet of that, which is along the west, north, and east side. But the
Okay.
fence on the south side, because of its being adjacent and not adjacent to the public right-of-way, it can meet the height of 8 feet. And that is typical that you would see, but the applicants have requested that additional height for security purposes.
Okay, that's
And
what.
that 8-foot fence is gonna be, it's gonna be not transparent, you can't see through it.
Correct.
It's gonna be
So
a
the-
barrier fence.
Correct, so the fence on the south side that is adjacent to the residence is going to be a vinyl fence. Now, the fence that is along, that is the bow wrought iron, that, as you can see by the landscape plan, has landscaping in front of it as well to provide additional screening, because we didn't want a stockade type looking fence along your public right-of-way. We wanted to have some level of element of
Decorative. Yeah.
and then having the supplement of the landscape screening as well.
Okay. All right, that's all our questions and your questions. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to come to the podium to comment or ask questions? Yes, please. Step to the podium. I think there's a spot for you to sign in. And then
I sign.
raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
And your name is?
Christina Hershey.
Did you get it? Christina?
With a P.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
Okay. At the previous meeting, it was discussed that there might be a timeout on the gate code. Is that still going to happen?
Yeah. Yes, when we talk about 9 o'clock,
Okay. And then it would
they're shut.
reopen when?
7 or 8, yeah.
Okay. I think that was my only question.
Mr. Chairman, could we just clarify that?
Yes.
So that would be, so you're just stating that the facility would not be accessible between 9 PM and 8 AM, so it's not a 24-hour?
Can we go 7 AM?
9 p.m. to 7 a.m.
So 9 PM to 7 AM?
Okay.
What's the request?
So, yeah, so,
Okay.
so 7 AM, open at 7, close at 9. So yes, 9 PM to 7 AM, it will not be accessible.
So those with key codes it would not.
Well,
be
yeah,
active
only ones who
during
can get in there
that
are the
time.
police, fire and maintenance and owners. It's the only ones that can get in there.
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest that that be a condition of the special use, if so, if the
Okay.
Plan Commission deems appropriate,
Okay,
and we can help work out that particular
okay.
language. I'll work on that.
I don't think my wife wants to ask a question again, so. Okay, yes, you want, your time is still going.
Yeah,
You
go ahead,
want to
go
ask
ahead,
another
yeah.
one?
Was there a updated rendering of like the blind spot?
Pardon, I couldn't hear you. Speak up.
Was there an updated rendering with, that included the blind spot? The turn from Borio to Renwick?
So they took.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that when we had the meeting here with the residents, that the corner of Renwick and Boreal was kind of sharp, and you were gonna make a change to that.
They kind of limited talked about not putting that heavy landscape on the corner because of that site distance. But I believe our landscape plan shows that that's been,
Mr. Chairman, may I show
Yes, please.
the landscape plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, yeah, I see, it's actually even got it dotted in there where we were talking about doing that.
Yes, because you guys are giving that right away for a sign, right? For some type
there
of
is
sign
a small sign for the subdivision.
for the subdivision that they're gonna,
That says,
that you guys, whoever, the subdivision HOA can put a sign there
oh,
saying whatever they want to say. It's right there.
So that's, oh, you're talking,
The site triangle.
Before this.
the site triangle coming in.
Yeah.
Yes, and I can say that as part of engineering, that is part of the review that we do.
So the old plan had landscaping all the way out in here. So now the site triangle is right there.
okay.
Yes.
Do you, so I'm trying to envision where the current, there's a lot of poles here. Do you know where the landscaping is in relation
It
to?
falls behind the poles.
Okay,
Usually, typically, the poles run on the right-of-way, or they're always within the right-of-way for the most part.
okay. So the landscaping is away from the
Yeah,
right
it
away?
should be on here.
So here's the right-of-way.
Right there's the pole, that little dot right there.
Okay,
That's a pole, that's a pole.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
The landscape's behind the poles.
So this, what's this? Like, is this behind that line, or is that?
Yeah, so here's the property line right here. This is, sorry, Mike, I'm writing on it. This is your property line right here, okay? So anything that they're doing is behind their property line. This looks like it is a proposed sign of some sort. Okay? Let's see if this has it in there.
So this thing is the sign?
Yeah, it looks like that, yep,
Okay.
that's the sign, correct.
Okay,
So, and we still have to review final sign to make sure that it meets setback and everything.
okay.
It makes a site triangle.
Okay, thank you.
And in the event, as I presume that our court reporter did not get all of that discussion, let the record just show that Ms. Rigoni has addressed and I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry. Christina's concerns. Obviously, everything that was looked at on the exhibit was not necessarily caught on the record, but the record should just reflect that there was a discussion that obviously didn't get completely transcribed. Unless, Leanne, you got all of that.
Most of it.
I can summarize it if you prefer.
I did get a lot.
Okay, no further questions. I think at this point, we can probably close the public hearing. I have a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carroll. Roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Carroll. Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo Desario,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing is closed at 7:30.
At 7:30, thank you. Okay. Well, I was hoping we were gonna have this place packed with residents that maybe still had some concern, but Christina, I'm assuming you're probably gonna be taking what you hear tonight back to at least some of them, and I hope you liked what you heard so far. You know, this property is zoned B3, as we've said. When you think about the city of Crest Hill is not like Joliet, it's not like Romeoville or Plainfield or even farther north Bolingbrook, where if they want to increase their city revenue, they can annex some land and bring in some commercial properties and reap the benefits of that. Crest Hill is bounded on four sides. So what we've got to do is look at vacant areas in the city and, as a plan commission, consider whether or not the development in any specific vacant area is acceptable, particularly to the surrounding areas, in a lot of cases, whether it's industrial areas or residential. And I thought it was interesting when you consider B3 zoning, the types of stores or businesses that could immediately move into a lot that's zoned B3 without our permission, without the city council permission, because it's already zoned for certain uses. And just to give you an idea, it could be a small equipment rental. It could be a 24/7 convenience store. It could be a laundromat. It could be a health and fitness club. It could be an animal hospital, veterinary clinic, animal shelter, or kennel. Or it could be a packaged liquor store. All of these types of uses are going to generate quite a bit of traffic. Probably some, and in some cases most of it, undesirable traffic to be next to a residential area. So I have to commend A&D for what they have eventually now come up with. It has to be, in my opinion, I've driven around and looked at a lot more storage units than I've ever looked at before, including some right here in Romeoville under construction. And quite honestly, they look pretty industrial. This in my mind is the most beautiful storage area I have ever seen, and you're to be commended for that. So during our discussion tonight, we've come up with some conditions. So before I ask for a motion on this case, I just want to make sure that everybody, both the commissioners and the petitioners, are all in agreement with these conditions. And I now have 5 of them. Condition number 1 is that the fencing along Renwick and Borio will be 6 feet in height on the east, north, and west sides for security purposes, and 8 feet on the south side, and all will be in compliance with section 8.2-14 of the zoning ordinance. I think that's what we've kind of said now, okay? The second recommendation would be conditional on the approval of a final landscaping plan, which will include landscaping along the west property line to further screen the overhead doors from the west, and on the north, just further screen the buildings. And now with the use of full masonry on the east side to further screen those buildings, I'm thinking, are we not talking about the requirement for much additional landscaping on the east side if we use masonry on the walls?
Yes, there isn't a requirement in your ordinance that specifies how much, but yes, if you are changing that, what we can do is when we go through the final landscape plan, because your ordinance requires that they provide so many plant units
Right.
that we can go ahead and disperse those in other areas, say the north property line as well as on the west property line, to kind
Okay.
of to further foster that screening.
Okay, thank you. The third condition is requiring the approval of the final site plan, the final photometric plan, and the signage plan, which I don't think has been approved yet, correct?
Correct.
And then finally, the final engineering review and approval. Fourth condition will be that the City of Crest Hill Police Department review and approve your security plan. And now the fifth one that I would like to see us all add is that the access code will be timed out each day from 9 PM to 7 AM. From 9 PM to 7 AM. So that's a really nice condition. I appreciate you guys doing it. So, okay, so you're all in agreement with those conditions, and I would like to request a motion.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think there's one other that we had indicated that we just want to acknowledge the fence height as well as then the building materials as part of the deviation as part of the special use.
On the fences themselves?
Yeah, yes, we could just do one note as a condition that's stating that, as I think I presented something along the lines of an increase in fence height and deviation from the required building materials is considered under the approval of the special use.
Okay, do you want to make that part of condition,
I would make it a standalone condition,
you want to make it a standalone, so there
correct.
would be 6 conditions?
correct?
Okay. So therefore, I'd like to have a motion to approve the request from A&D Storage for a B3 special use for a self-storage facility located at the southwest corner of Renwick Road and Boreal Drive, based on the 6 conditions previously mentioned. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner Stanton. Roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo DeSario,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, congratulations, guys. You've done an incredible job
Thank you.
doing that. So just let me reiterate that the Planning Commission is a recommending body only. And so we will now send our recommendation to approve a request to the City Council. Do we have an idea when they might be hearing that?
Right now, it looks as if we're going to be bringing it what we've been doing is bringing them to work session first. So it looks like we're going to be slated for July 31st to appear before a work session with anticipation that consideration of an ordinance on August 7th.
Okay, so, and I'm sure Steve will be there on July 31st at the work session where this will go before the City Council to
Yeah, we want
discuss
to give
it.
them an update on the conditions, the changes that were made, and to show the real nice product to the council.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, the second case for tonight is a petition from the City of Crest Hill for an text amendment to amend the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance to modify section 12.3-2 regarding the meeting time and the date of the Plan Commission meetings. I would like, is all the paperwork in order on this text amendment?
Yes, the paperwork is in
Okay.
order.
Then I would like to have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner Carroll. Roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo DeSario,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing open at 7:39. So again, the subject of this hearing in this case, is to discuss the petition for the City of Crest Hill for an amendment to the City of Crest Hill zoning ordinance to modify section 12.3-2 regarding the meeting time and date of the Plan Commission. Again, I'd like to ask our interim city planner, Maura Rigoni, to discuss the specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before you this evening is a request for a text amendment for section 12.3-2, entitled Meetings in the City of Crest Hill Zoning Ordinance. This application was initiated by the City of Crest Hill. Any text amendment can be initiated by an applicant or the city. So in this case, we, the city, are the applicants ourselves. The consideration is to modify this section, and in your report, I have provided the exact language of how this section reads. I won't read it verbatim except for the first sentence. It says that regular meetings of the Plan Commission should be held on the second Wednesday of each month at the Crest Hill City Hall, unless otherwise specified by the presiding officer. Meetings shall be held at 7 p.m. And then it goes on to talk about the adjournments and so forth. In your packet includes a modification, removing that specific date and time, just specifying that all meetings of the Plan Commission shall be held at the call of the chairperson at such time as the Plan Commission may determine. This language is similar to what other communities will use because there's an ever-changing schedule, and it does not hold and bind you to one individual date per se, as your ordinance has specified at this point. It does require that we would go ahead and under business, and then at the beginning of every year, that you do go ahead and adopt a calendar which has those dates on there, and they are generally always consistent. The conversations that we've had, it looked like we were moving instead of the second Wednesday, but to the second Thursday. So that is not specified in the ordinance itself, but know that we still have to stay to a consistent schedule. This text amendment would allow that if should we ever have to change the schedule again, that we wouldn't have to go through the text amendment, but that would be something that would publicly be noted in a meeting such as another business. So any motion before you tonight would be to go ahead and approve the text amendment as outlined in the staff report. And also at your seat is an updated meeting schedule reflecting the new dates that would be.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? I think we've all talked about that was the consensus to move to that particular date. Is there anybody in the audience that has anything to say on this? Okay, that being the case, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Commissioner Carroll makes the motion,
Second.
second by Commissioner DeCerio. Roll call, please.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo DeCerio,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing closed at 7:43. Okay, I guess then I would ask for a motion to approve the application from the City of Crest Hill to initiate the text amendment to eliminate the specified time and date for Plan Commission meetings from the zoning ordinance, section 12.3-2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson. Did you want to say something?
Motion to remove that and to replace it with the sentence in the staff report.
Oh,
Because you don't want to just remove the sentence, you want to replace it and
no,
amend
good
it.
point. I didn't hear that part. So to remove and replace with a sentence in the staff report
Yes, as outlined in the staff report, correct.
is outlined, okay? All right, motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner Carroll. Roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo DeCerio,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I've got one other business. Anybody have any other business? So, I have this item that we need to vote on. In order to establish a meeting time and date, the Plan Commission is proposing the adoption of the attached meeting calendar. It changes the current meeting structure from the second Wednesday of the month to the second Tuesday of the month, contingent on approval of the text amendment.
Tuesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
What did I just say? Tuesday?
Yes.
That's what my wife wanted me to change it to, my fault. The structure from the second Wednesday of the month to the second Thursday of the month, contingent on approval of the text amendment by city council. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why the change from Wednesday to Thursday?
Well, our interim city engineer has a conflict on Wednesdays based on a new position that she has gotten, and in the absence of anyone to replace her at this time, we're forced to change the meeting.
Okay, just curious.
Who seconded that?
I'll second.
John Stanton will second it. Commissioner Stanton? All right, roll call, please.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
Ken Carroll,
Yes.
Angelo DeSirio,
Yes.
and Bill Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I'm not certain whether this will come to the work session next week or it'll just get voted on August 7th, but I'll find out whether
Okay.
the
So if it's
council really
voted
wants to.
on August 7th, and obviously we know they're going to approve it, the straw vote said it was okay to
Right.
proceed. If we had a meeting, could we still have it
Yes,
on the
I
10th?
think we figured that out, right?
Yeah, we figured.
We don't know whether we have agenda items quite yet, but
Okay,
yes, I
but
think
if we
we have
do, we will,
enough time.
otherwise we'll notify everybody.
Correct.
Okay, any public comments from anybody in the audience on anything? Last chance, Christina. All right, then, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner DeSario,
Second.
second by Commissioner Peterson. Roll call, please.
Angelo DeSirio,
Yes.
Jeff Peterson,
Yes.
John Stanton,
Yes.
and Ken Carroll, and Bill Thomas.
Yes, at 7:47, thank you. Okay,